Okay, listen, I probably shouldn't be telling you this, but once you start to see the little glitches, the cracks in the code of our reality, it's really hard to ignore them. What if everything you see, everything you feel, everything you are, isn't actually real?
And that's the thing. Once you start looking, you see that the system is full of these strange little rules. And look, this isn't some late-night conspiracy theory anymore. Some of the sharpest minds on the planet are seriously asking whether what we call reality is built on physics that looks suspiciously digital.
Go on, do it. Look at your hand. It looks and feels solid, right? Real. But what if that feeling, that sense of realness, is just an incredibly high-resolution stream of data? What if your hand and everything around you is just information being processed?
So let's start with the first major crack in the code. Turns out there's a hard limit to reality. A point where, if you try to zoom in any closer, the universe itself basically just says, nope, can't go any further. We've found what looks an awful lot like the universe's minimum pixel size.
You know how this works with a picture on your computer screen, right? You zoom in, and you zoom in, and you keep going until eventually that smooth image just breaks. It dissolves into its most basic building blocks, the pixels, a grid. So, the big question is, what happens when we try to do that to reality itself?
Well, get this. The universe does the exact same thing. There is a fundamental, absolute limit where you cannot zoom in any further. It's called the Planck length, and it's basically the minimum resolution of our reality. You try to look at anything smaller than that, and our concepts of space and distance, they just completely fall apart. And you got to ask yourself, why would reality even have a minimum resolution? Unless, it's being rendered.
And the resolution we're talking about is just staggering. That number is a decimal point followed by 34 zeros and then a 16. It is so ridiculously small that if you blew up a single atom to be the size of the entire known universe, the Planck length would be about as tall as a tree. So yeah, the detail is immense, but it's not infinite.
Okay, so a finite resolution is one thing. But if our universe is a computer, the amount of processing power it would need is just unthinkable. You would expect it to have some shortcuts, right? Some clever tricks to save on resources? And, well, it really looks like it does.
This is where things get truly bizarre. In any modern video game, the system saves a ton of processing power by only rendering or loading the parts of the world the player is actually looking at. The stuff behind you? It's just simple code until you turn around. Now, let's look at quantum mechanics. A particle, like an electron, doesn't actually have a definite position until we measure it. Until we look at it, it's just a blurry cloud of possibilities. The act of observing it forces it to render in one specific spot.
Just let that sink in for a second. It seems like your attention, your consciousness, is what's loading reality into existence, moment by moment. So what's happening to the world behind your back when you aren't looking? Maybe the universe is just saving on processing power, leaving everything as unrendered potential code. Okay, so we have a pixel size, and we've got an on-demand rendering engine. That all sounds an awful lot like software. But what about the hardware running it all? Every computer has a processor, and every processor has a clock speed, a hard limit on how fast it can compute. Does our universe have one of those too?
We've all heard it a million times. Nothing can travel faster than the speed of light. But we almost never stop to ask the most important question. Why? Why should there be an absolute, unbreakable speed limit hard-coded into the very fabric of the cosmos?
The simulation hypothesis offers a wild but strangely logical answer. The speed of light isn't a speed limit for stuff moving in the universe. It's the speed limit of the universe itself. Think of it as the clock speed of the cosmic computer, the absolute maximum rate at which the system can calculate and load the next frame of reality. You can't go faster because the computer literally can't process the next moment any quicker than that.
So, let's just take a step back. What do we have? A reality that seems to be made of pixels, a world that only bothers to render itself when we're looking, and a universal speed limit that looks just like a processor's clock speed. When you start putting all these glitches together, the picture they paint, it's not really about physics anymore. It's about you.
So let's just recap the evidence. 1, we have a minimum resolution, the Planck length pixel. 2, we have on-demand rendering, the quantum observer effect.
And 3, we have a maximum processing speed, the speed of light. Now, taken by themselves, they're just quirks of physics. But when you put them all together, they look exactly like the kind of performance-saving features you would build into a massive computer simulation.
So, if all of this, our entire universe, our reality, is really just a piece of incredibly advanced software, then what does that make you?
Are you just a non-player character? An incredibly sophisticated piece of AI? Sure, but still, programmed with memories, with hopes, with fears, just living out your life on a scripted loop inside someone else's game? Are your thoughts even your own?
And you know, if you really are just an NPC, your legal options become tricky. I suppose you could try to sue the system admin for emotional distress caused by some of the more challenging recent updates, but good luck trying to serve that subpoena outside of reality.
Which, of course, leaves us with the last and maybe the most terrifying question of all. If we're all just the background characters, these complex AI programs designed to make the world feel alive, then who or what is holding the controller?